Hello everybody, it's Ian here from SimBuild UK again. Just kind of laying out the panels for the main instrument panel. I was hoping to kind of follow Carl Clark's build on this, but it seems that his panel is just slightly different to mine. The measurements don't exactly match up, so I'm going to go my own way on it, but basing it on his sort of plans. So what I've done here is just laid the panels out and I've drawn around them ready to cut the holes out that you can see. What I'm doing here is at the bottom here I'm allowing an extra 70mm to aid with fixing of the angle piece that's going to come off, that's got the brightness controls on it, etc. And this line at the top here, I'm going to continue that straight and then down there until I know exactly how I'm going to fix my glare shields on. So it may be cut off at a later date, I'm not sure yet. If I was being really technical about it, I could go into CAD drawing, but I'm a woodworker, not a computer worker, so it's going to be a bit of make it up as you go along with me. So I've got some gauges and panels laid out here, which are the pieces that go on top over these holes, and I put them on just to make sure that the cutouts that I make in the MDF is going to be enough clearance for the gauges, etc. But I shall, it seems like they are going to be at this stage, but I shall do a mock-up once I've got the panel cut out. Welcome back everybody. It's been a couple of days since the last segment where I laid it all out on the floor. You can see that I've started to build up the panel here. It's sitting at the moment on its temporary stand, and this is a old timber that I've had in the garden for a couple of years. It's bent, it's twisted, it's got cut marks, drill holes in it, but it will do just for a stand. It's going to get chucked away when I finish with it. But you can see I've got the 3 monitors mounted, and now I've made cutouts for all the switches where the panels are going to be, and I'll show you now how I came about doing that. To get my cutouts, all I did was took my cockpit sim parts back panels and just laid them out on a sheet of MDF. I'm using 6mm MDF, and the frame size, by the way, is 68mm in width and 15 in thickness. So I laid all the panels out and then just simply drew around everything, drew around all the holes, drew around this part of the panel because that's where the glare shield is going to go, so this bit will offer a bit of support for that. Up here, I believe this is a new design. If you look at Carl Clark's version, he hasn't got this raised bit on his. This is the sort of back support for the MCP. Obviously the MCP will be up here somewhere, but this is an extra support to support the back of the panel that's going to hold it. So you can see I just cut out for all the panels, just simply drew around it, drilled a hole, and then just run around the line with the jigsaw. It doesn't have to be particularly neat because it's not going to be seen at any point. Just got to make sure that your cutouts are not smaller than the actual panel. And this bit at the bottom here, I've had to allow this for the extra monitor to stick out, but the other piece is going to come sort of at an angle off this, where you've got all your dimmers for your lights, etc. Obviously you've got your PFD, ND. This bit here is for the 2 standby instruments, and then this will be a blanking panel in there. Then the upper ICAS, first officers ND, and first officers PFD. What I'll do now is give you a view from the back. Okay, here's a view from the back of the panel. You can see how I've fitted my monitors. The reason I cut out for the full monitor is because I wanted to get the monitor as far forward as possible so that it joins up with the back of the panel, and to get the screen as close to the front of the panel as I can. All I've done is just an angle bracket, and I've hot glued the bracket onto the monitor, and then just a simple nut and bolt or nut and screw, M3 screw up through the bottom to keep it in place. So there's 2 fixings on the bottom, and 3D printer to the rescue again. Just printed a little sort of Z shaped bracket there to hold the top of the monitor in place. These brackets are not got to hold any weight. All they're there for is to stop the monitor falling forwards or back. Exactly the same thing on this monitor, just some slightly different brackets at the bottom. These ones actually screwed in rather than nut and bolt. And on the bottom here, this monitor had these little flanges already on it. So all I did was bend them at right angles and then put a screw in. And another one of the 3D printed Z brackets at the top there. And these are bolted through the front, so what I've done is I've sunk the head of the bolt into the MDF so it doesn't interfere with the panel when it goes over the top. The monitor size, you can see it's very tight here. It just fitted in here. This is the hole for where the backlighting will shine up on the word landing gear, I believe. Monitor sizes, this is a Dell 19 inch, and that's 19 measured corner to corner. This one, I haven't got a clue what it is. I stripped that one apart years ago and just happened to find it in the loft and it fitted. I've forgotten what size that is now. I think it's a 15 inch. Yeah, it's a 15 inch corner to corner. And that one is the same as that one. It's a Dell 19 inch. So the next job is to now start layering up the front panels and getting them bolted in place, ready to start fitting the switches. You can see with this stand, I've just drilled a bolt all the way through, and what I can do is just turn that nut and then I can spin this round to whatever angle I like, and then just nip the nut up again to lock it in place. Same that side. So that's where I'm at the moment. The next segment will be once I've got all the front panels on and we can start fitting some switches. Okay, one of the jobs that I keep falling back on between working on the panel just for a break is these Enunciator boxes. As they come from cockpit sim parts, you've got the rear Enunciator box with the 2 holes for the 5mm LEDs and the actual Enunciator. These need fixing together, and the way I'm doing that is to line it up nice and straight, like that, and then with the thin wicking super glue, just a couple of drops. Along the top like that, and then just wiping away the excess glue, and then same on the bottom. With it being thin wicking super glue, it will seep into the joint, so there's no need to put glue on the faces and then mate them together. That's now stuck. Next job is to fit the LEDs in the back. So obviously there's two right gears, one will be red, one will be green, so we'll go with the red ones first. What I always like to do is when I get an LED out of the packet, just test it to make sure it is the colour you want. And all I'm using for that is a 3V CR2450 battery. Put in the long pin of the LED on the positive side. Yep, two red LEDs. And what I'm doing is using a system for putting my LEDs in. So what I'm doing is putting the long pin to the right, so positive to the right, as you're looking at it from the back. So they both go the same way. Pop them in there like that, and then again one little drop of super glue. I don't want to put too much on, because if they ever need to change an LED, I don't want to struggle getting it out, so just one little drop. My nozzle's clogged up. Oops. Okay, so that's the LED secured in place. With the pins on the back, very much the same as what I did with the FMC. I'm linking two LEDs together. So with these LEDs, I've got the positive on the right on both. So the positive on this LED needs to link to the negative on this LED. So what I'm going to do is simply bend them pins down like that and snip it off. If you can see that. So that's the positive one I've just bent. So now I need to bend the negative of the other one down to join it. And again, snip it off. So now when I come to soldering, I will solder those two pins together. So then you're left with this one's the, I got it the wrong way around. This one's the positive and this one's the negative. So both those LEDs will light from one signal. The final job to do on these is to paint the whole box black, because these Enunciator boxes stick through the back of the panel, and when the backlighting is on, it will make these glow white if you don't block the light from getting inside this box. So the whole box everything has got to be painted black, including this little edge here, otherwise you'll get light bleed through that. And this has got to be repeated 20 times ish for the amount of enunciators that are in the main panel. Okay, the paint I'm using is matte black. It's a tin I had from when I used to do my scale modelling for RC planes. It's fuel proof, but I mean it doesn't matter for this. And the reason I fitted the LEDs earlier is because it gives me something to hold while I paint the boxes. So very carefully, being careful not to get paint on the front edge. It's just to find a nice steady rest and just start layering the paint on. Starting away from that front edge and just pushing the paint slowly towards it. It's a bit of a tedious job when you know how many you've got to do. Sometimes it can help. You don't want to brush that way because it will push the paint off the brush onto that front edge. So you always want to brush that way. And that allows you to push the paint right up to that front edge. Without any risk of getting it on the front. I found from earlier tests that it's going to need probably about 3 coats in total. But this paint dries pretty quickly, about 10 minutes it'll be dry. So that's all 4 sides of the front part done. One thing I forgot to mention was these enunciator boxes. Where they come out of the moulding, you can see in here is quite a rough edge, and where they sit on the panel, they don't quite sit flat and straight. So you just simply taking a square file and just running the file up against that edge just takes off some of them moulding lumps. Do that on all 4 sides. And that's it, they'll now sit nice and flush in the panel. So back to the painting one. Like I said, the whole box needs to be painted. This bit we don't have to be quite so careful about because we're well away from that front edge. Not forgetting, of course, that we need to paint the back as well where the LEDs are. And I'm going to cover the LEDs as well with the paint, so that we don't get any white bleeding through the LED. Can actually stand it down there to finish it off. Okay, that's that one finished for its first coat. I shall let that dry and then give it another coat. And then I'll make the LED light up and just see if we get any light bleed anywhere. And if we do, then I shall give it a third coat. If not, I will put that aside as done. Now, one down, 20 odd to go. They pull off. I mean, I see people digging with screwdrivers and everything to try and get theirs off, so seems like they need to do a little bit of tweaking on their supports. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes I have to use a screwdriver to get it started, but then there we go, look, now I've got it started, it's just going to pull off virtually as one piece. If I had nails, it would be a lot easier, but I don't. So I am going to use a screwdriver. What I should do really is find a bigger screwdriver. There we go, that's that one cleaned up. So next job is to wet sand it and just help get rid of some of the marks. There isn't many marks, it's pretty good. So it doesn't matter what the bottom's like, that's where the supports were attached, but you're not going to see that. And there's the other part full of supports. That one's got a load of support in the middle of it. If you don't understand 3D printing and you're wondering what I mean by supports, come on camera. I really do need to get myself a decent camera. Okay. Yeah, the 3D printer basically builds something up in layers. So it starts with a single layer, so it'll be an outline of the whatever you're printing, and then it then raises up a little bit and builds another layer on top, and it just keeps doing that to build a 3D object. But when you've got something like this that's hollow, obviously the printer can't build something in mid-air. So what it has to do is build up a support layer to then build the part on, or lay the filament on something, so it doesn't just fall down to the print bed. So this is a good example. If I get one that's finished, you can see how it's built that support to support this part here once it gets up to that height. otherwise this would just all flop and droop down. Again, that's only for people who don't know what 3D printing is. If you've got a 3D printer, you'll know. So, and the idea of supports is they're just temporary and you snap them off. Once you're finished. There we go. You can see there the writing that's on top. It didn't come out too well, but like I said, I didn't want that anyway, so I just sand it off, and I'll apply a decal once it's all painted. But yeah, that's another one ready for wet sanding and cleaning up, ready for priming and painting. So yeah, a lot going on in different places. Sometimes I come in here and think, which bit shall I get on with? While I was making the captain's side knee panel, obviously I made another one exactly the same for the first officer side. The only thing that's different is the spacing of these, because they're different panels. This one I haven't got around to cutting out yet because it's stormy and wet and horrible here, so I can't get outside to do it, but that's how I've marked out what I'm going to cut out to let the backlight through and the switches through the bottom. And this one I haven't got any backlighting or anything fitted yet. This is just raw. And there's another piece of MDF, which is the bottom plate. I haven't cut it down to length, it seems, either, but the width is all down ready. Must have forgot to do that. This is the first time I've put it together. So yeah, that's the back panel where all the backlighting will fit to, and the silver foil and everything. And then this way, this is the top panel. But what I have now discovered, literally 10 minutes ago before I started doing this video, is on the Bowen there's underneath the monitors there's kind of a bullnose trim, which I've made, fitted, checked it all, it's sanded ready for painting. And what I did was, it was my mistake, I bought these panels literally right up to that bullnose, which is why the MDF is a little bit short here, because the bullnose fills the rest of that gap. It looked good to me until I started to study a bit further and found that these panels, these knee panels, need to be dropped down about 20 mil from that bullnose, which isn't an issue. I can drop them down, but I need to recut this top piece of MDF to extend it a bit further to reach the panel rather than reaching the bullnose like it does now. If I move it down as it is, there's going to be a 15-20 mil gap between the MDF and the panel. So both this one and the captain's one have got to be recut, so it's not too much of an issue. The captain's one, I can just draw around the holes that I've already cut out and redo it. But it's all part of the fun, and well, it's not fun at all, I'll be honest. I was pissed off at myself, but we'll say it to be nice. It's part of the fun of building a Bowen simulator, I guess. You got like I said in the previous video, I'm not one for pre-planning. I kind of make it up as I go along and make something, clamp it in place, need a bit more out of here, a bit more out of there, that sort of thing. But that's just me, you know, other people might pre-plan it a bit more and get it right first time, but for me it's not a huge mistake. You know, 15 minutes out in the garden with the saw, I'll have 2 new panels, the right size, and then I can progress with that part. But hey ho, that's it for now. I shall see you in the next one.